to start, and the first question is just kind of about your background. So where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school?
Okay, well, I grew up in Wyandotte County, Kansas. Went to Wyandotte High School, came out in 1982, graduated in 1982. Went to KU, if you can look at my picture behind. So obviously I'm a Jayhawk. Was recruited actually in the ninth grade. I had committed to KU, that's 14. They had basically never seen me play because I had broken my leg. They had just heard about me. And with me being a local talent, they wanted me to stick around. So they'd offered me a scholarship. They heard that Missouri was recruiting me, but Missouri didn't have a shot. So.
Yeah. All right. So what did you study at KU?
Majored in psychology. After playing around with different majors, I found out that I wasn't very good at math. So I was trying to find something that I could work around that area. So I got my degree actually while playing over in Europe. I had petitioned to finish through correspondence since I was a few hours short when I actually left campus. And so Coach Williams at the time he had replaced Coach Brown. So he had helped petition for me. They allowed me to complete my degree while playing over in Europe.
Oh, that's cool. So yeah, we'll talk about basketball. So tell us a little bit about your college basketball experience. And then if you want to talk about like your pro basketball experience and your experience playing abroad, please do.
Okay, well, KU, like I said, I wasn't real big on professional sports growing up. I wanted to be the first in my family to go to college. And that's why I picked up a ball. And, growing up, I played all sports and I had to figure out suggestions from the doctor. I had to pick a sport. I had broken my leg. We'll go back to my ninth grade year. The reason why KU had never seen me play, I had broken my leg playing football. And I broke my growth bone. So I was at homeschooled before COVID. I was in a body cast and couldn't get around. And so I had to be homeschooled. And at that time, the doctor told me that I would never walk again and that give up sports. And I had a few choice words for him at a young age. And that's when I started setting goals for myself. And I said I wanted to prove the doctors wrong, that I would walk again and I would play sports. And they told me to stick to something that was easy. Basketball was too much running and whatnot, and would have been hard on my body. But I fell in love with basketball, and I figured that was my way to college. So my parents didn't, they couldn't afford to send me to school, so I had to earn a scholarship. So that's how I ended up at KU. Started all 4 years. I went in as a freshman, highly recruited. My high school team was number 5 in the nation at the time. So my goals when I wanted to be, first of all, make the basketball team because I started out and my friends were already seasoned players, even at a young age, and I was a late bloomer. I didn't pick up a ball till almost the 6th grade. And I tell people nowadays that I was as big as round as I was tall. So I had to learn to run to get in shape. And although I was a big guy, I could run, I could jump, and I was athletic. And so I said, you don't have to be a small player to play guard. In high school, I was playing power forward and post player a lot. In college, as you know, especially nowadays, everybody's a guard at 6'7", 6'8". So I was 6'6.5", 6'7", recruited to KU to play power forward. I left KU playing guard. So you're just not going to hear this for the first time. My first college game, my very first college game, my father had a heart attack and died in the stands.
Oh gosh.
And everybody thought that I was going to give up the sport. I was going to transfer schools and whatnot. And like I said, I had goals. And
Yeah.
my goal for my father, for my family, was for me to go to college. And there's no way that I was going to leave school after working my tail off to get to where I was, and especially to lose my father in the stands watching me.
Yeah. Take your time. I'm sorry about that. That's awful.
So, excuse me.
No, please.
That. Sorry.
You're good. Please take your time.
Like I said, my goal was to be the first in my family to go to college. And that's why I picked up a ball.
Mm-hmm.
Losing my father, it forced me to grow up quicker, sooner. We had a pretty big family. My mother had 4 kids, but my father had 6 kids from his first wife, and I was the youngest guy, and I had a younger sister. And so for me to be the first, it meant something.
Yeah, for sure.
To me. I talked about growing up. We had a grocery business. When my dad died, I thought about leaving school to keep running the business because I didn't know that the business was already in my name. And I had a business mind. I was working in the grocery store since I was in the 3rd grade and stocking shelves and cleaning and whatnot, just watching my father. And as a 6th grader, I was not the normal size 6th grader. And my father locked me in the store one day and said, "Don't open the door." He had to run in there. And I kept looking outside, and the line was growing longer and longer with customers lining up outside. And I let them in after my father told me don't open the door. So he came back and he just stood in the doorway and he saw me checking out customers and, doing everything, running the register, giving the right change and whatever. He just shook his head. And so he didn't know whether to yell at me or what to do. And so he's like, "Wow." He's like, "How did you know what?" I was like, "I've watched you for 3 years."
Yeah.
And, and they respected me. They didn't really know my age. They just wanted their groceries. And so they didn't care who was checking them out. And so that's how my business mind had clicked in at an early age. So we kept the stores for a couple of years and then we ended up selling them because my mother, she wasn't able to work a regular job and work full time with her health issues. And we didn't really trust a lot of people to take over and run the business. And with me being away at college, I couldn't be there as much as I needed to be. So we ended up selling the stores. And getting back to basketball part, when I left school, I ended up being the number 4 leading scorer in KU history.
Sheesh.
And that just blew my mind because they stopped the game when I scored 1,000 points, and they said, "Oh, 1,000-point score." I'm like, "Wow!" And then they stopped the game again. Said he just moved into 4th place, Wilt Chamberlain, and I'm like, "Wilt Chamberlain?" Oh,
Gosh.
and so everybody kept saying, "Oh, well, you're sort of a big deal," and none of this had never measured with me because my goal was to go to college.
Yeah.
Like I said, it wasn't to be a professional basketball player, but the end of my junior year, the commentators and the media started talking about me being a pro prospect. And now, obviously, if they want to pay me some money to do something that I love doing and I do it for free, then why not change goals. So my goals shifted, and I started thinking about being a pro prospect. So, my sophomore year, and I laugh and I joke with people about I set the record for the most consecutive free throws, and it stood for KU. It stood for 21 years. But I said that record will stand forever because I played in the Big 8, and Wayne Simeon, who broke it, played in the Big 12.
Oh.
So I said my record would be there forever. So that was fun. Being a part of the first late night. We started that when my sophomore year when Coach Brown came. That was fun.
Those are
My
great.
senior year, we made it to the Final Four, and most people, KU faithful, consider our 86 team to be one of the best in school history.
For
So
sure.
we considered ourselves the best team that never won it. So Duke was our nemesis. They beat us twice that year.
Yeah.
And that's why KU faithful don't like Duke anymore. So,
That's yeah.
But KU, I mean, as you know, my daughter's there now. Your former teammate Taylor, she's a sophomore there now, and it's in our blood.
Yeah.
My wife played there as well.
Right.
We talked about Wilt Chamberlain, not knowing at the time, but my wife's uncle married Wilt Chamberlain's sister. So that's our connection now. So Aunt Barbara, my wife Lisa, she actually was at the game where they honored Wilt Chamberlain at halftime with his jersey. So it was Aunt Barbara, which is Wilt's sister, is married to Lisa's uncle. Myself and Lisa was going out with the jersey recognition at halftime, and I dropped Lisa's hand and sat down because I wanted it to be about Wilt Chamberlain, not about me. And so I just let Lisa and Aunt Barbara go out there, and so they laughed. It's like, "Where's Calvin? Where's Calvin?" So I sat there in the front row and watched them get recognized. So that's my connection to Wilt Chamberlain and Aunt Barbara and the Chamberlains. And so after my senior year, I was one of the few lucky ones to get drafted. So I was drafted by the New York Knicks in the NBA. It didn't go as well as planned. I got traded and went to the Clippers and got tossed around 4 or 5 different teams. From the Clippers, I went to the Bulls. And you heard of this guy named Michael Jordan. So he was with the Bulls and we played the same position. So I was like, well, I don't think I can compete with him.
I mean, at least you tried,
Right. So they ended up trading me to the Pacers from them because I was like, I'd rather go somewhere I can compete for playing time instead of challenging him. Although he was hurt that year with the broken foot, but I knew he was going to come back soon. I ended up going to the Pacers, and then out of the Pacers, Camp got released again. Coach said he couldn't afford to go with a rookie free agent. So back then we had the G League. The G League is now, but we had the CBA, which is the Continental Basketball Association. So that's similar to the G League now. And so I left the Pacers and went and played in the CBA for 2 years, which was the Topeka Sizzlers.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll fast forward and come to that a little later. And when you ask me what I'm doing now. And so I played there. My goals was if I didn't stick in the NBA for 2 years, then I would go over to Europe because a lot of money was being tossed around and a lot of the players who didn't make the NBA. So I took the contract and went to France, signed a 2-year guarantee contract with half year up front. So that meant a lot back then. I mean, it was a lot of money then. And I mean, some would say it's a lot of money now. It's because it's tax free and they took care of everything. So I played there 2 years in France. Great experience. Lived in South France the first year and got a chance to travel in Spain, Italy, Switzerland, Germany, just because their countries over there is like our states.
Awesome.
So it's real close. After 2 years in France, I went to Israel.
Wow.
5 years. So that's how I started speaking Hebrew.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, that's super cool to hear about your basketball experience. With all the basketball, obviously you were like a very important figure on your team. So what kind of like leadership skills did you like develop while you're playing college basketball, while you were abroad, just at basketball in general?
Well, and for the most part, I've always been a team leader, a
Mhm.
captain on our team.
Yeah.
And growing up watching older people play or veterans play, to be a leader, you have to lead by example.
Yes.
And so if I couldn't get on my teammates or get on anyone for not doing something if I wasn't willing to do it myself. So I tried to be that guy that led by example. Um, Vocal. As a coach and owner now, I treat everybody the same.
Mm.
It's tough love, and that's the way I was raised. Everybody gets the same treatment, but you have to treat people differently at the same time, treating them the same, getting on them the same way, but you can't get on everybody the same way,
Yeah,
if
for
you
sure.
understand what I'm saying. I mean,
Yeah,
some
no.
people can take the tough love, but
Mhm.
you gotta, pop them back up. Otherwise, you gotta keep them down. That they want discipline, and I find today that these kids, and even in the classrooms, they want discipline. They want to learn, and a lot of them, with my youth programs and then my pro teams, they just simply haven't been told what to do. And so
Mhm.
to get that lesson and that they understand that I care, I mean, that meant a lot, to them and meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
So I try to lead by example.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's clear you're definitely a team leader. So at Doane, we have a lot of student athletes, like a lot. So if you have any advice for student athletes who are wanting to be better leaders, like what would you tell them?
First of all, to be coachable.
Okay.
To
Yeah.
to be coachable. It doesn't matter what sport it is. It doesn't matter what level you get to. Danny Manning, my former teammate, and we used to joke about saying, and he said he stole it from me. I said I stole it from him, but I said today, if I can't teach you, I can't use you.
Yeah.
And bottom line, when I'm talking to kids and I'm talking to my pro players, it's all the same. Look me in the eye. And somebody, when your teacher, when your parents talking to you, look them in the eye. And they're in the principal's office and they got their head down, and I'll stop the conversation. Look who you're talking to. Look them in the eye. Be strong, Billy. If I can't teach you, I can't use you.
Yeah.
And you have to be stern. You have to be confident in what you're doing for them to be able to follow you. I want them to follow you. And so, I am extremely organized. Not to be boastful, but that's just the way I am, and I have to be. I know where everything is. I when in my current situation I started off as a sub, and now I'm a French teacher, and realized this past week that I'm teaching Spanish and Italian as
Oh, wow.
well, because one of the classes is world languages. And so
Awesome.
they have to have three languages instead of just French. And so, and I told the principal's like, you have this. I don't know if she's coming back, the teacher who was on maternity leave.
Right.
I said, when I do something, I do it. I was like, I have the lesson plan for the whole year. Like, are you kidding me? I was like,
Ready.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm ready. I was like, if I'm going to jump, I'm going to dunk. No pun intended. So it's just the way I am. I'm organized. My practice, they barely have time to get a drink of water because the whistle's blowing, they're gone. And I joke around with them and say, if it was any easier to be football, because football, you get to stop and you get to walk back to the huddle and you get the rest. Basketball is constant movement. So if we do it in practice, we'll do it in the game. So I don't allow them to walk around much in practice.
Yeah, no, that's all great advice. So you mentioned like your teaching, and since you're clearly a really good leader, like that really goes hand in hand with teaching and just being up there, just in a kind of a different capacity. So how'd you get into teaching? Because I know it was pretty recent.
Yeah, it really was. I got bored of sitting around the house with COVID
Yeah.
and watching the news. They were looking for some emergency subs, and at the time, everything was remote. So
Oh
I'm
yeah.
like, I'm safe. I wanted to move up and get my shots. And so I knew the teachers
Right.
getting their shots quicker.
Smart.
And right. And I needed, one of my issues with being a basketball coach is gym rentals. And, it's tough for people to rent gyms, to rent out fine spaces to rent. And with COVID, everybody was shutting down and not renting to outsiders. So I was like, if I get into the school system, I have my own key.
Very smart.
Right. And so so it happened. I was an emergency sub. I went from being an emergency sub, and the principal saw me and the French teacher speaking in French in the hallway one time. And he's like, holy crap. He's like, you're serious. You do speak French. I was like, I told you I did. And he's like, well, as you see, she's pregnant. She's going on maternity leave soon, so you can cover for her. So I was like, oh, I don't have a problem. So I went from being an emergency sub to a building sub. I was like a doctor on call where I covered the whole school, to now starting the school out being a full-time French teacher.
Oh,
so she was supposed to come back October 21st in a couple of weeks. And about a month ago, she let the principal know that she wasn't coming back. So he panicked. And I said, what are you doing? I said, come to my room. So he went to my room, my French room, and I showed him everything, because I'm old school and it took them a while to get me in the system because
right.
she was still in the system. And so I was under her name, and I showed him that I had handwritten lesson plan through May. And he's like, wow. So I have teachers that's been here forever and they do it 1 week at a time, but I have to be organized. I have to know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
The teachers, the kids love it. I love it. And I told them, I'm not your French teacher, but I'm going to do the best that I can do. Yeah. I'm going to make up. I say, I'm going to make learning fun. I want teaching to be fun. We're going to have a blast. But the first rule I gave them was, don't start now, there won't be none.
Yeah.
And they knew from that point forward, they knew I was serious. Very first day of school was a Friday. I had a guy sit in the front row, was just disrupting class, screwing up. I stood up, and I'm 6'6".
Yes.
Big tall guy. I stood up. I said, get out of my class. This is the first day of school. I said, I know, get out and don't come back. And I had everybody's attention. That whole school was talking after that. This kid came back to me 2 weeks later. He said, Mr. Thompson, I am sorry. Can I come back to your class? And I said, you have to apologize to the class. And you're sitting right in front of me and you have zero tolerance. He has a B+ in French.
Dang, it's pretty impressive. Yeah.
You see, I take what I do.
Yeah, with coaching.
About what I do.
Yeah.
Court off the court. I tell them it's not French class to me. I'm teaching life skills.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in there teaching English. These kids didn't know what prepositions and pronouns and adjectives was. I said, if you know what it is in English, you know what it is in French. It's the same. So now they're telling me, Mr. Thompson, you helped me pull my English grade up from a D to a C, from a D to a B.
Yeah. No,
this is awesome. Why I teach. I mean, I love what I do. I love helping.
Yeah.
I talked about my youth program. My youth team was Hoop Service.
Right.
Hoop is an acronym for helping out other people.
Oh.
That's from my dad. That's why I do what I do.
Yeah, no, it's clear that through coaching and teaching, not only are you a great leader, like you do it to help other people, and that's just so fantastic. So you've talked about how you have used like leadership in the classroom. Have you like learned any specific lessons from your new students about leadership or teaching in general? Anything you've had to kind of switch up since you've been faced with new situations?
Yeah, that's a very good question. The biggest thing that I have learned is patience.
Yeah. No, I can see that
It's
with kids.
patience. It's patience. I have 5 classes. I have 115 kids.
Oh, wow.
And I had dealing with that one kid on the first day of school and just dealing with different backgrounds of everyone. I had to learn to be patient. Dealing with the politics in corporate America, because I've always owned my own business.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been my own boss. I had to learn patience. I still call a spade a spade. I still wear my heart on my sleeve if you see how emotional I am,
Mm-hmm.
how emotional I get. And a situation Friday with the principal, with me going into the school system last year, they started calling me Joe Clark. I don't know if you ever watched the movie Lean on Me. He was a principal that got called in to clean up old school there in the inner city, and
Okay.
he walked around with a bullhorn and a baseball bat, and he shut the sports teams down and made them all tutors, get tutors and study, and then they end up winning state and they end up graduating and top of their classes. So they were calling me Joe Clark in the school. And I keep telling the principal, I'm not the principal. I
Yeah.
tell the teachers, I'm not the principal.
Yeah.
But they're all looking at me because of my leadership skills.
Yeah. No.
The principal's coming to me, the teachers are coming to me, the lunch ladies are coming to me, kids are coming to me. So there's a situation that I'm dealing with now. I have to bite my tongue. I talk about patience
Yeah.
because I say what's on my mind. I call a spade, and I don't hold any punches. I mean, I don't know how to lie. And so I only speak the truth. And so they have a deal in classrooms where kids acting up, you put them in a safe seat.
Oh, yeah.
Move them up to a safe seat. If that doesn't work, you move them to a buddy room.
Okay.
If that doesn't work in the buddy room, then we have to go to ISS and school suspension.
Right.
So that's what I learned from teaching or whatever. And I said, patience. After the situation with the principal on Friday, he tried to talk to me today. And I said, I had to put myself in a safe seat. I'm not talking to you because you can't handle the truth. So I got to figure out how to break it down to him
Right.
without losing him. So I said, I'm in the safe seat. And when I get done with the safe seat, I'm going to the buddy room. And then maybe I'll talk to you. So patience is
Yes,
big with me.
for sure. Well, that's great to hear. A lot of people think like, oh, like I've got it all figured out. But it's great to hear that like even you, one of like the greatest leaders I've met, like you're still learning things and figuring things out, especially when you are letting yourself go into new situations and experiences. I think that's awesome. So you had mentioned it a little earlier about like your semi-pro team. So do you want to talk about that and just kind of what you're working on now other than teaching as we wrap up?
Okay, yes, and that's good. I talked about my plan days after being released from the NBA and going to the CBA, and my team name was the Topeka Sizzlers. So fast forward to 4 years ago, I was in a situation in Kansas City coaching for another semi-pro team and didn't like the way things were being done. Didn't like the character, the ownership. So I honored my commitment like I always do.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the year, I said that I told him I wouldn't be back. I would go and buy my own team and do things the right way. And he figured it out that, I didn't like his character. I didn't like his style. And, I have integrity. I'm far from perfect, but I have integrity. I tell my son, all you have is your last name, like my dad told me. So don't screw that up. And so I bought my own team. And with that team still being here in Kansas City, along with the other colleges and other teams, it was crowded here for basketball. So
Yeah.
I went back to Topeka where my pro career started.
Oh, okay.
And I looked up the name, and it was available because it was, 25, 30 years ago when we played. I know you didn't know I was that old, but
No, no,
so
no.
so Topeka Sizzlers was still available, so I adopted the name. I bought the naming rights, and we named it Topeka
Cool.
Sizzlers. So we relocated right before COVID to Kansas City, and so now my name is the KC Sizzlers. So
Oh,
that's where the Sizzlers came from. So I bought the team. My son was playing in high school, and then he went to play in college. He didn't have fun playing after he played for me with youth basketball. And so, on top of one thing's done the right way, I wanted to give him a chance to play for a couple years after college to have fun, to experience what I experienced,
yeah.
even then on that level. And so he was able to play for me the first year. Now he's growing up, which is a good thing. And he
Yeah.
moved to Colorado,
Wow.
over the summer. So he's not playing this year, but he's still on my roster because he's also a part owner that he doesn't know about yet either. So, and same with Taylor. So I made both my kids, part owners of the team. And so we're here, and I simply wanted to continue to help out other people, help out other players, and give them a chance to further their basketball careers. Everybody can't play in the NBA.
Yeah.
Everybody can't go over to Europe to play, but there's an outlet that we can provide for them to go and continue to play if they want to. And so that's what I did for the kids here, the players here. I call them kids. They're grown kids.
No, that's awesome.
So, right. And so that's why I bought the Sizzlers and turned it into Casey Sizzlers. And I just actually had my final tryouts last Wednesday and made my final cut and roster spots over the weekend. So we'll have some happy players tonight at practice.
Yeah, no, that'll be interesting. I'll look for updates and stuff. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and so that's kind of the last parting question. Do you have any other advice you want to give to college students that are going to watch this? The athletes, non-athletes, just anyone in general.
Well, I'm not a big baby. I'm just sensitive. But
No,
no, the main thing I would tell students or athletes, anybody, non-athletes, college students, period, is to set goals and be realistic when setting your goals and don't accept no. I mean, the doctor told me I would never walk again. I played 8 years legally handicapped. My left leg was 2 inches longer than my right leg because I grew almost 2 inches when I broke my leg. And so when I took my shoes off, I would literally walk in a circle. So when I ran, it was a stride, so you couldn't tell that much. But when I walked, the limp was noticeable.
Mm-hmm.
So when I retired, I had the 2 inches cut off my left thigh to make me even. And so now I don't experience the back pains or anything like that. So set goals. I mean, goals don't care who have them. Like I said, I picked up a ball, as a 6th grader. And my mother laughed at me because I was a little fat kid. I'll tell you, I was as wide as I was tall. You never play, blah, blah, blah. You never do this. You never do that. And I was like, I'll show her. I'll show the doctor. That was my motivation. When I go out and give speeches, what's your motivation? That's my first question. I ask, what's your motivation? Why? So I set goals. Reevaluate your goals. Don't accept no. I just told that same kid we talked about I kicked out, he stops by my room every day. Every day. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. I said, how's your day? Continue to make good choices. He needed structure.
Yeah.
He needed that firm kick in the butt that I gave him on day one. I wish I can reach them all. I mean, that's my goal. I don't give up. And I want to reach them all. This is ironic. In my lesson plans for Friday, we're not going over French. We're not, we're not going over Italian. We're not going over Spanish. are going over goal setting.
Oh, that's
I
cool.
created goal setting sheets for the kids.
Yeah.
We got next Friday is time management. You know,
Yeah.
these the same things that I would teach and go over with my daughter Taylor. She's like, we need to learn this stuff in school.
Yeah,
You know, I would make her, before I open up her a bank account, I would give her an amount of money that she had. And I was like, act like you go into the store and you're spending money. I said, balance this sheet out. And if it comes back correct, then I open your account. She's like, we don't have checks anymore. But you're gonna, if you want money in your account, you're gonna balance this sheet out. And she's like,
Yeah.
wow, why can't we learn this in school? I teach life skills.
Yeah.
You know, I wish they can put up their life skills teacher as opposed to French teacher, because it's more. My
Yeah.
motto with basketball, it's more than just a game. And
Yeah.
I tell them it's more than just French. So, you know, we're going to be doing goal setting on Friday.
That's awesome.
I talked to the district to see where I was and where I was supposed to be in terms of what the kids were learning and what I was teaching them. They said, Calvin, are you kidding me? They said, your agenda is where they should be in April and May. So
You're
I'm
on
proud
it.
of myself. I mean, I didn't go to school to teach,
Yeah.
but I've been teaching for over 30 years. I just haven't been in the classroom.
For sure. You definitely have been. Well, thank you so much. This was so helpful and it's great to hear from you. You really are such a like inspiring leader. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you asking. It was
Yes,
always
of
good.
course.
I'll